Time. Come again. Time बहुत लगता है. Whatever we have seen yesterday, let's revive quickly. Gender sequence, which is using to the gender table, inserting two genders. Gender sequence, which is using to the gender table while inserting two records. Gender ID is a unique. It can act as a reference column to the foreign key columns. Inside a employee table, I'll choose one column as a foreign key that will be referring to ID column of the gender table. In the same way, skill sequence, skill table, 4 skills we are inserting. 4 skills we are inserting. Four records we are inserting. Skill sequence, skill table. Observe skill ID. The skill table ID column is a unique. It can act as a reference column for any of the foreign key. Inside a employee table, not inside employee table, employee under skill table, intermediate table, it can have a foreign key which is referring to ID column of the skill table. In the same way, education sequence, education table ID is a unique. It can act as a foreign key. It can act as a reference key to the foreign key. Inside a employee table, education ID. Inside a employee table, education ID is a foreign key. Similar to that, project table. Project table ID also unique. Inside a employee table, there is a foreign key column which is referring to ID column of the project table. Employee sequence, employee table, employee sequence and employee table. వీళ్ళు భారతీయులు ఫోన్ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. Just continue. Observe employee table, first name, last name, date of birth, gender ID which is a foreign key, latest education ID which is also foreign key, project ID which is also foreign key, joining date, username, password. You can see 3 constraints, 3 foreign keys. Then address sequence to the address table. Address table is having a foreign key to the employee table ID column. Address table, house number, street name, city, state, employee underscore ID. It is a unique employee underscore ID. It is a unique. Because of the unique, you can achieve one-to-one mapping. Check it out. We have seen all the conditions very properly. Whenever foreign key is either unique or primary, you can achieve one-to-one mapping. One employee will have only one address. This is the foreign key constraint. Employee ID references ID of the employee. Then intermediate table, only 2 columns, employee underscore ID, skill underscore ID. Employee underscore ID, skill underscore ID. Employee underscore ID, skill underscore ID. Employee underscore ID is a foreign key to ID of the employee. Skill underscore ID is a foreign key to the ID of the skills. Then, yesterday we have seen let us see the entity classes. Transferring address information. You can call like a bean class or entity class to transfer address information. House number, street name, city, state, EMP ID. Setters and getters. Setters and getters. In the same way, education. Under education table only 2 columns are there, ID and name. Employee, lot of data is there. First name, last name, DOB, date of birth, gender ID, education ID, project ID, skill IDs, an array, DOJ, date of join, address, please observe, it's a component, has a relationship. Employee has an address. Address containing multiple attributes. Employee has an address. Has a relationship. Username, password. setters and getters. In the same way, gender, ID and name, there is setter and getters. Project, ID and name, there is setter and getter. Skill, ID and name, there is setter and getter. These are the entity classes. Come to the DB util. We know very well about util. This we have seen several times. Not required to worry. Come to the DAO classes. For every table we are developing one DAO. So far we have seen master tables DAOs. Let's go to education DAO. Reading all the educations. So read all educations method. List of educations. For every row of the education, developing one education object, storing that education object in the list. For the second row of the education, a new education object is creating, storing in the same list. You can see the list. Inside a while loop, for every iteration, a new education, reading the data from the result set, storing the same data in the education object. Afterwards, storing education object in the array list. Education object in the array list. Please observe. Storing education object in the array list. Education object is storing in the array list. Likewise, all educations are returning in the form of an array list. In the same way, gender DAO, project DAO, skill DAO, reading master data, reading master data. Now, let's see the client program, which is only very important. Enter 1 for insert, enter 2 for search. Enter 1 for insert, enter 2 for search. Insert, I am creating one empty address object. One empty address object. One empty employee object. One empty address object. One empty employee object. Then we are setting address object inside a employee object. We are setting address object inside a employee object. We are setting address inside a employee. Both are empty only, both are having a default values. Now, read all the genders, show all the genders to the user along with the ID. Every gender is having a unique ID. That unique ID only should be inserted in the employee table. Why? Because employee table gender ID is a foreign key to the ID column of the gender table. We have to show we have to show all available genders along with the ID. You have to ask to the user to select only ID. We are using ID only. We are using ID only. Okay, let him to wait. 7 o'clock we announced till 7:30. Mahesh Raj. Abera. List of genders. Whatever gender ID entering by the end user, that gender ID we are setting into employee object. Earlier employee object was completely empty. Now we showed all the genders along with the IDs. We asked to select one ID. Whichever ID he is selecting, same ID he has to enter. Whatever he is entering, same we are setting into employee object. Inside employee object, set gender ID. Read all available genders from the database. Show all available genders. Show all available genders. Show all available genders. Ask to the user, select any one. Whichever he is selecting, same he has to enter. Whichever he is selecting, same he has to enter. He is entering one. Whatever he is entering, same we are storing in the employee object. By now, employee object containing only gender ID. In the same way, read all educations. Read all educations. Show all educations to the end user along with the education ID. Along with the education ID. Whichever education he is selecting, for that education, whatever ID is there, that ID. For that education, whatever ID is there, that ID, whatever education, that ID, we have to enter into the database. We have to select that ID. That ID user is selecting, entering, same ID we are setting into employee object. Now employee object is having gender ID, education ID. Likewise, one by one, we are reading from the end user and setting the same data to the employee object. So this time, showing all projects, all projects we are showing, asking to the end user to select one project, entering the ID of that project, same ID we are setting into employee object. In the same way, skills also. Show all the skills, ask to the end user to select all of his skills by using comma as a separator. By using comma as a separator, all of his skills. By using comma as a separator, all of his skills he is entering. Whatever skills he is entering through comma as a separator, that string we are splitting through comma as a separator. Split the string. There is a built-in split method. By using a common character, splitting, getting a string array. Then Defining one int array of same size. Defining one int array of same size. Running a for loop. Reading string element from the string array. Converting into integer. Storing inside an integer array. In the second iteration, again reading string element from the string array, converting into integer, storing in the int array. In the third iteration, again reading a string object from the string array, converting into integer, storing in the int array. Why? Because skills IDs is an int array in the employee class. Inside the employee class, there is one attribute. That attribute is a skill IDs. It's an int array. Store that int array inside the employee object. The complete master data we set inside the employee object. So here, user is selecting one among available in the database. All genders available, he is selecting one. All projects available, he is selecting one. All skills available, from the available skills only he is selecting. All educations, one of the available education is selected. Then he can enter any date of birth. We are showing given format also. In this format, try to enter date of join. Any date he can enter. Then we are asking first name. Any first name he can enter. Last name. House number. Enter street name. Enter city, state, username, password. Whatever data reading from the console, whatever data we are reading from the end user, that data we are storing into, we are storing in the employee object. Address information already stored in the employee object. The complete data is available inside the employee object. Employee first name, last name, username, password, gender ID, all skill IDs, project ID, date of birth, date of join, and even address information like house number, state, city. The complete address information storing in the address object. Address object is storing in the employee object. Inside the employee object, address object is available. That address object is containing address specific information. Now we are ready to store user data in the database. Whichever data available in the employee object, whichever data available in the employee object, same data, whichever data available in the employee object, whichever data available in the employee object, same data we have to store in the database. Same data we have to store in the database. Same data we are storing in the database. Employee DAO dot insert employee EMP object. Insert employee EMP object. Now let us see how data is inserting in the employee DAO. Here totally 3 SQL queries required. One SQL query inserting data into the employee table. After inserting data into the employee table, get the employee ID, use that employee ID to insert data in the address table. Address is a child table. It is having a foreign key to the employee table. Afterwards, insert employee skills in another table. Insert employee skills in another table. Once employee ID is ready, employee ID, we have a skills array. Employee ID 1, skill ID 1. Employee ID 1, skill ID 3. Employee ID 1, skill ID. Altogether, 4 SQL queries we have to trigger. First one, inserting into employee table. Second one, reading employee ID. Third one, inserting address information in the address table. Fourth one, inserting all the skills into the intermediate table. First and foremost one, try to insert first and foremost one, first and foremost one. Inserting into employee table. Let us compose insert query. While composing insert SQL query, always advisable to specify column names. Even though you are providing values to every column, it is very advisable. The best practice while developing insert SQL query, provide all the column names. Even though any new column is inserting to the employee table afterwards, your SQL query will not be crashing. While composing insert SQL query, always advisable to specify command and insert column names. First column value through sequence. First column value through sequence. ID. ID is a unique. We already developed one sequence to the employee table. Same sequence I am using to get its value. First name, last name, we know very well about the 2_ timestamp method. Do you know or not? Come on. 2_ timestamp method. In case of SQL Excel, we have seen whatever data getting from the database getting from the user with respect to date of birth. Whatever data getting from the end user with respect to database. With respect to database, that data we are supplying to the to underscore timestamp along with the format. In the SQL itself, we have seen to underscore timestamp function usage. Then supplying gender ID, education ID, date of join. There is a to underscore date function. To underscore date function. Using to underscore date function, getting date of join, getting date of join. Getting date of join, project ID, username, password. Query is very simple, but while composing in the Java 5, you have to be very cautious with more concentration. All single quotes, comma, you have to consider. If any one single quote is missing, the total SQL command will not be working. Most of the people committing a mistake either in the comma or in the single quote. Column by column you have to check. You only should identify. You should not ask to somebody to verify. While you are identifying, you will come to know where and all we can commit a mistake. This is the insert SQL command. Insert SQL command which is inserting to the employee table, which is inserting to the employee table. Then another query, this query is related to skills table. We are using 2 question marks. See, for skills table, you should have an employee ID or not. Come on. We don't have an employee ID as of now. After triggering insert SQL query, then you have to trigger select query to read the employee ID. Till that we don't have an employee ID. I am developing a skills with 2 question marks. SQL skills with 2 question marks. Two SQL skills. Sorry, 2 question marks. We don't have a employee ID, but skill ID is multiple we have in the array. Yes or no? Multiple we have. Then reading the maximum ID, max ID. While inserting first employee record, employee ID will be 1 through sequence. While inserting second employee ID will be 2. So maximum ID we are retrieving the max ID. So here 3 queries only. One more query we will be composing for the address table. Connection statement, prepared statement, result set. Status EMP ID. connection, statement, prepared statement, result set. Connection, statement, prepared statement, result set. Connection, statement, prepared statement, and result set. Status, EMP ID, then get the connection as usual, statement also, connection, statement. Once the statement is ready, send the employee insert. SQL is a employee insert. Check it out. We are inserting employee into the database. We are inserting employee into database. We are inserting employee into database. We are inserting employee into database. After inserting employee into database, find out maximum employee ID. Already SQL EMP select SQL query is there. Check it out. Select max ID. Getting the result set. We don't require a while loop. Why? Because only one record is there. Go for if block, get ID. Reading the EMP ID. Maximum EMP ID is the current employee ID or no? While inserting first record, employee ID will be 1. That is only maximum. While inserting second record, employee ID will be 2. That is only maximum. While inserting third record, employee ID will be 3. That is only maximum. While inserting fourth record, employee ID is rs.next. EMP ID is equal to rs dot getInt of ID. rs dot getInt of ID. We have an employee ID. Same employee ID we are setting inside an address. For the address table, employee ID is required or not? Come on. Inside address table, employee ID is a foreign key. Inside a address table, employee ID is a foreign key. We are retrieving address object. We are setting employee ID. We are setting employee ID, EMP ID. Now, run the prepared statement. Once we have a employee ID, you can set data, employee ID and skill IDs are there. I am running a for loop. First to get the prepared statement. Already SQL query is there. We need to set two values. First value is the EMP ID which is available. Second value is the skill ID which is reading from the skills array. Then call execute, update. So please observe, for the prepared statement, 2 question marks required. First question mark is employee ID. What is the second question mark? Second question mark, skill ID. First one is the employee ID, second one is a skill ID. First one is employee ID, second one is skill ID. Setting 1, employee ID, setting 2, skill ID. One is employee ID, 2 is skill ID. Execute update. If 3 skills are there in the array, for loop will be iterating 3 times. Every time same employee ID, but different skill ID. Yes or no? In the intermediate table, lot of blank faces. If you are practiced, it's not at all difficult. Let's see once again. Please observe. It's very important. Employee object we are sending to insert employee. Employee object sending to insert employee. We are composing insert SQL query to the employee table. Insert SQL query by reading data from the EMP object. Inside EMP object, first name, last name, date of birth, date of join, gender ID, skill ID, all are there. Only the thing is reading one by one. Sequence, next val, first name, last name, 2 underscore timestamp, converting string into timestamp object in order to store object inside a timestamp column. Gender ID, education ID, 2 underscore date function, 2 underscore date function, project ID, username, password. This is a simple insert SQL query. Let us see, we are triggering insert SQL query to the database. After triggering insert SQL query, employee ID we have to read. Please observe, we are not supplying employee ID. How we are getting employee ID? How we are getting employee ID? How we are getting employee ID? from a sequence. You are not providing employee ID. Through sequence you are getting employee ID or not? While inserting a employee through a sequence we are getting employee ID. Through a sequence we are getting employee ID. Through sequence we are getting employee ID. Same employee ID you have to read back. Same employee ID we have to read back. For that purpose there is a SQL EMP selector. You can see the SQL query. Select max ID as ID from the employee. If 10 employees are already stored, while inserting a 11th employee, his ID will be 11 or not? That will be a maximum or not? While inserting 30th employee, his ID will be 30. Before all employees 29 only, before 29. The maximum ID is a current employee ID. Yes or no? That maximum ID we are trying to read. Check it out the result set. Execute query, supplying SQL EMP select. For ID purpose, we are triggering select query. While inserting first employee ID by default it's 1 from the sequence. That is only maximum. Read that one. While inserting a second employee, first employee ID 1, second employee ID 2. So second employee ID 2, that is a maximum or not? That getting from the results. The maximum employee ID. Maximum employee ID. Once employee ID is ready, now we can store data in the address table. We can store data in the address table and data in the skills intermediate table also. Address table required employee ID as a foreign key. Even in the intermediate table also employee ID is required. We got the employee ID. We inserted one employee, whatever ID generated. We inserted one employee, whatever ID generated. Whatever ID generated, same ID, we are reading back. In order to provide the same ID to the address table for the foreign key value, to the intermediate table, for the foreign key value. Now I am storing same employee ID. I am storing same employee ID. I am storing same employee ID in the address object. Same employee ID inside address object. Same employee ID inside address object. Now inside address object, even EMP ID also there. This address data you can send to address DAO to insert. Now you can see prepared statement SQL skills. Already there is one SQL command. Check it out, SQL skills. How we composed SQL skills. There is a SQL command with 2 question marks. SQL command with 2 question marks. First question mark is employee ID. Second question mark is a skill ID. Employee ID we have. Skill IDs are there in the array. Employee ID we have. Skill IDs are there in the array. Employee ID, skill ID from the array. Read the skill ID from the array one by one. Got it out. If 3 skills are there, 3 times Sure, no. Employee data stored, even skills data also stored. Now address data has to store. Is it possible to develop address data, address DAO? I already given an award to your batch. What is the award? What is the award? Come to the address DAO. Inside address object, inside a address object. Insert into address. ID, house number, street name, city, state, employee ID, values, employee ID also there in the address object. House number, street name, city, state, employee ID. First one anyhow sequence value. Is it possible to insert this command? Very difficult. Get the connection statement, execute update, getting a status. Altogether 4 commands are there. One command inserting to the employee. One command inserting to the skills table. One command reading ID from the employee table. One command inserting into the address table. So please observe. Whatever data entering by the end user, whatever data entering by the end user, that data is available in the employee object. Compose the insert command. Compose the insert command to the employee table. Trigger that insert command. While triggering that insert command, sequence ID is generating to the employee ID. Read that employee ID that is required for the address table and also for the skills table. Read the employee ID. For reading employee ID, you are going for select max ID. Why? Because current employee ID will be a maximum ID. The reason is ID we are getting from the sequence. The reason is ID we are getting from the sequence. Got it or not? After getting an employee ID, use that employee ID while inserting skills in the skill table, address in the address table. Skill table is having a foreign key of the employee ID. Address table also having a foreign key of the employee ID. First insert command to the employee. Then read the employee ID. Use that employee ID while inserting into the skills, while inserting into address. Please go through everybody. Try to understand by yourself. Let us see how many people can able to understand. I'll give 10 minutes time. Afterwards, everybody has to explain. Guys, I'll explain once again. I know where you are. 90% of blank faces. First, asking to the user to enter the data. Whatever data he is entering, completely we are storing in the employee object. Inside the employee object, several attributes are there, like a first name, last name, username, password, date of birth, date of join, gender ID, project ID, education ID, even skill ID as an array. Skill ID as an array. Finally, one address attribute is there. Inside address class, house number, state, city. Address information is available inside a address object. That address object is a attribute inside a employee, something like a has a relationship. Employee has an address. Whatever data entering by the end user, that data storing inside a employee object. That data storing inside a employee object. Afterwards, supplying that employee object into insert employee method. Inside employee DAO, insert employee method. Insert employee method. Insert employee method. ఇంకో 10 minutes వెయిట్ చేస్తాం చెప్పు నేను వస్తాను insert into employee. First we are composing insert query to insert data into the employee columns except employee ID. How we are getting employee ID? We are not supplying hard to coded employee ID. We don't have. We are not asking employee ID from the end user. End user is not entering employee ID. Remaining all he is entering. Employee ID automatically we are getting from the sequence. We are specifying from which sequence employee ID has to get. Employee underscore SEQ is a sequence name. Remaining for all the columns we are providing a value. First name, last name, date of birth, gender ID, education ID, date of join, project ID, username, password. Username and password. The complete data except a sequence value. That sequence value automatically database manager can retrieve from the specified sequence. Whatever sequence you specify. So sequence value always, the latest value will be a maximum value. Sequence value always, the latest value is a maximum value. Yes or no? Whatever value, sequence value, return it to the employee table, that is a maximum value. After inserting employee, read the maximum employee ID, that is a sequence value, that is only the current employee ID. That current employee ID is very much required. Why? Because there are two dependent tables on employee. One is address table, second one is a employee underscore skills. One is a address table which is required employee ID. The second one is a employee underscore skills. That is why we are reading employee ID. You can see, read the employee ID. After reading the employee ID, store the employee ID in the address. emp.getAddress, you'll be getting address object or not. Inside address object, calling set emp ID. Set emp ID. Employee ID stored in the address object. Now address object can send it to address DAO where address data reading composing insert SQL query sent to the database. Sir, now skill statement. Prepared statement is very advisable here. Why? Because same type of query triggering again and again or not. If 5 skills are there, 5 times the same type of query. 5 times the same type of the query. Go for prepared statement with 2 question marks. First question mark is employee ID, which we got just now. Second question mark is a skill ID, which are there in the skill arc. Sir, no. Then the for. Every time same type of the query by changing only data. By changing only data. Prepared statement is most suitable mobile. Confusion? Still confusion. Nobody can save. Sir, no.